fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Core Class Dinobot Skarr from the Transformers Legacy Evolution line from Hasbro. This is our 5th Dinobot, getting very close to finishing off Volcanicus. We just have Snarl left to go. I think Skarr looks fantastic. Now, I don't know a ton about this character. I know Skarr existed back in the old IDW comics, which I unfortunately didn't really read. And I don't think he ever transformed. He was like the team medic, but they've decided to give him this kind of Ankylosaurus alt mode here. I love it. I think that's so cool. Ankylosaurus has always been a really favorite dinosaur of mine. So I think it looks really, really cool, and I'm excited to have him on the team here. But yeah, so we have some really nice artwork of the Dino mode up here, and then we have some cool artwork of the robot mode over here on this side, and then we just have our kind of standard half of the Evolution mural picture on the side here. Nothing going on the bottom. Up top, we just have the logo. Spinning it around to the back, we have the Dino mode and the robot mode. Now, this says 4 out of 6. I did do him and Swoop out of order. I wasn't really paying attention to the numbers when I decided to review them, and I'll be honest, I was more excited for Swoop, so I did that one first. But I think Skarr is going to be pretty cool as well, and he is the other arm of Volcanicus. I do think it's weird that they released him that way because we have a Volcanicus missing a leg. I would much rather have both of the legs come out first so he can stand on his own, and then, you know, have him be one-armed for a time. But here we are, so he'll just be kind of, you know, standing like a flamingo. What can you do? But anyway, that's pretty much it for the packaging here, so I'm going to go ahead, get him out of the box, and we'll take a closer look. So here is Skarr out of the packaging. I like him quite a bit. I think it's kind of funny that he was the medic in the IDW comics, because he's definitely giving me like a bruiser vibe. Kind of short, squat, just kind of looks like a powerhouse, especially being an Ankylosaurus. I feel like that really, you know, makes sense. But I think the robot mode looks pretty good. Not a ton of kibble here. He does have these little dino legs, but you can kind of push them nicely into the back and they integrate pretty well and don't even really notice them. The one thing I will say is he has these dino legs down here on the side, and the directions just kind of have them up like this, but I don't know, I think that looks kind of messy. He's got this kind of tab here and this little notch, and this comes down and tabs very nicely into that spot. And I feel like that integrates so much better and kind of gets them out of the way. Certainly not in the way of the thighs at all. But what's weird is that was clearly meant to be done because it has the little notch and everything. But the directions for robot mode and the arm mode don't utilize that. So I think it's really strange that that functionality was clearly put in, but then the directions don't mention it at all. But I like to keep the legs down like that. I feel like it frees up this area a lot. And now you can get kind of full range of motion out of everything. And it just kind of makes him look a little bit cleaner. So I like him a lot. I feel like he really doesn't have... I mean, the most kibble he has is just the dino head hanging here off the back. And that's really not a big deal whatsoever. The head sculpt, I think, looks pretty good. You have the black paint there for kind of the helmet, silver paint for the face, nice blue paint there for the eyes. Have a little bit of red and gold here on the chest. And then really you just have this silver paint here on the front of the legs and the gold. And you can kind of see, like, on the side here, this is just the gray plastic. But on the front of the legs, he did get kind of a nice silver metallic paint there, and then the gold, which looks pretty sharp. Articulation-wise, the head can swivel from side to side. We have a ball joint here in the shoulder. You can kind of see how hollow all of this is. We're back to no elbow joints, which is a shame. After Swoop, I feel spoiled. I feel like, why couldn't they all have elbow joints? But I think Swoop's going to end up being probably the only one with elbows. It's a little hollow, but it's not that big of a deal. We do have a waist swivel, but we kind of have to move these pieces up a little bit to take advantage of it. Because otherwise, you know, the hips here will start to hit into this if it's down. So you have to move that up a little bit. But then you do have a waist swivel there you can utilize. You have a ball joint in the hip and kick pretty far out to the side. Pretty far forward, I would say over 90. And pretty far back, as long as you don't kind of get in the way of anything. You might have to go out to the side a little bit, but you can kick pretty far back as well. And then you have a ball joint here in the knee. He's got very tiny thighs and giant shins, so that's what he's got going on. But you got a ball joint there, so you can get some decent range of motion. Obviously, this is going to flip around 180 for the transformation, but you can get some movement out of this. And it does help because his heels are not the best. You can kind of see, really, you just have this. And a lot of times to kind of get him to stand, I have to kind of turn these inward to get the heels to work like that. Because if I do it just kind of straight, it'll kind of work, but he tends to want to rock backwards. So the heels are there. They're not the best. Getting him in kind of like a normal pose is a little difficult. He'll kind of stand, but you can see he kind of rocks backward a little bit. So it's fine, but it's not the best. He does come with one accessory, which is, I mean, let's be honest, it's the hand for the combine mode. It's very obviously the fist. It does have a little gun here out the front. It is done in gray plastic and then completely painted black. This will also become the kind of club tail for the Ankylosaurus mode. But here we can peg this into his hand, and he's supposed to use it as a blaster. I mean, to me, it really just looks like he's punching someone with a giant fist. But it's an okay little blaster. I understand it has to kind of serve 3 purposes, so it can't be perfect for all 3, but it's there. But yeah, he looks good. I like him quite a bit. Of course, we have to zoom out here and do a Dinobot group shot. So we got Slug there. We got Swoop. We got Sludge in all his embarrassment. And then we got Grimlock. So the 5 of these here are looking pretty good together. Nice unified color scheme. Can't wait for Snarl so we can finally have the whole team. But yeah, these guys are looking pretty good together. Alright, so getting into the transformation, it's pretty simple here. We're just going to go ahead and put the 2 legs together like that. They'll just kind of peg into each other. We're going to have to come around here and lift this up a little bit so that we can lift this up so that we can spin him at the waist 180 degrees. And then we're going to just bring the arms up here. And they will kind of have to come a little bit further than you would think so that they can kind of peg into each other like that. And then we're just going to bring this around and peg that into there. And then we can go ahead and pop up the dino head. This piece will flip forward and just conceal itself there. Bring your dino legs around. Just kind of straighten them out. Do the same here on this side. And then we can bring in, where did I put it? Here we go. The tail piece, which will just peg in right there. And there is your kind of tail club for the Ankylosaurus. He looks cool. I like him. I mean, he's not the best. I wish the head was a little bigger and kind of filled this area a little more. That, like, this kind of hangs over and this just kind of seems a little empty here. But I will say the dino head looks great. It's very nicely painted. The gold and the blue eyes and the Autobot symbol there on his nose. Kind of wish the mouth opened, but again, I get it's a core class figure. I don't like how the inner legs are so much like inside while these are outside. I mean, from here it's not too bad, but kind of looking at it from the front, it's a little weird. I kind of wish there was a way that these could have kind of maybe sprung out a little bit or something like that. Not a huge problem, just a minor little thing. Also, it's a little weird to have everything else be silver and then all of a sudden the tail's just black. I understand they're doing that because, you know, they want the fists to be black. But I'll be honest, I don't know why the fists need to be black considering the rest of the arm is gray. I mean, or at least they could have done like this section in the gray and maybe just painted the fist so that way it would kind of look like just the club on the end of the tail is black. Not a big deal, again, just it's a little weird to have everything kind of in the same color here and then all of a sudden random black tail. But again, these are minor nitpicks. For the most part, I do think this is a cool little dino mode. And of course, once again, we have to get our group shot going here of all our Dinobots. So we got the full team here. Looking pretty great. Cannot wait for Snarl. But yeah, I think this is a lot of fun. I think these core class Dinobots came out a lot better than I expected. But, you know, I was kind of basing them off this guy. Sludge is my favorite of the Dinobots, so I feel like they really did him dirty. And I wish he could get, maybe when the magic square happens, that'll do him some justice. Because honestly, I think the rest of these all came out pretty great. He's the only one I have like a major problem with. I mean, his proportions in both modes are terrible. Anyway, this is not a Sludge review. I like the group shot here of the 5 of them. I think he fits in pretty well. I forgot to mention real quick, in this mode, he has a little bit of articulation. The legs can kind of move. Like, once it gets to here, it stops, but you can go back a little bit. And these legs can move a little bit. Technically, you can kind of move the head down a little bit if you want, but it starts to uncover the robot head. So not really much articulation there. And this, I mean, I guess technically this could spin, but... So not a ton of articulation in this mode, but there is a tiny little bit. Transforming him to the arm mode is pretty simple. We're just going to go ahead and pop this piece off. We are going to flip out the legs. Now again, if you want, like the directions show, you can leave this up like this. Personally, I like to bring this around and once again peg it in down there. And then you want to kind of lift this up, and I realize that I'm zoomed in too much. So lift the dino head up a little bit so you can kind of just lift the arms up a little bit so you have clearance to spin this around 180. And then you want to kind of put this back down, and then you can pop this back closed. Then you're going to want to pop out this piece here for the connection, and then we're going to take this, and you can see how there's kind of a square peg slot right there, and that's going to peg on right there. So this is going to pop on like so. And that's pretty much it. With these, you want to bring them in, and there's kind of like a little cutout. You can kind of see how like the legs stop right here. And that's so that when you bring these down, they can kind of rest on the thighs a little bit so they're not so much in the way. So I know with Swoop, I kind of moved some stuff around, and technically if you want, you can kind of, you know, bring this up and out again and try to bring this around. But the problem is it's going to make you have to keep this arm at like a 45-degree angle because of where the connection point is. So it's not as easy to kind of move. It's not as easy to use that waist joint as like another articulation point for the arm as it is with Swoop. But you technically could, but then you'd kind of have to always have the arm out to the side like that. So unfortunately, not as much movability or customization with the arm form as with Swoop. But there you go. That is your arm form. So bringing him into our Volcanicus, we can go ahead and just peg it into the side of Sledge's fist there. And sometimes it's a little easier to kind of do it like this. So you have something to kind of push that in, and then you can kind of bring it down. So it's not bad. It's not great. I mean, I'll be honest, the arms are kind of a letdown for me. The fact that these like fist pieces are here, but they're just kind of hanging out the side. I don't know. I feel like if this was switched around and like most of this was facing the inside hollow part, I wouldn't mind as much. But on both of these, the arms are just kind of like hanging out here with the pegs and everything. And I don't love that. I do appreciate that they have the hinge out to the side as well as the, you know, front to back movement. So I appreciate that. But I don't know. They're just, especially with Swoop, I feel like he's a very thin, hollow arm. Like, I wish they, and maybe some third-party company will come up with some kind of piece that you could clip over this to kind of just fill this out. That way it would kind of cover this, like it would come to here maybe, and like just fill in this area. That way it would kind of close up the fist and just give it a little bit more because it's so thin. Skar's not as bad, but he's just kind of got, you know, robot arms just hanging off. Oh, and these I need to push back down. There we go. So it's not bad. I mean, it'll be nice once he can stand on his own, because right now he's only got one leg. And I like the idea. I really do. I like the idea of having a core class combiner. I think that's pretty cool. And we all know this is going to end up as Dino King. And I'm hoping they do some retooling and Dino King comes out just a little bit better. But for the most part, I think he's pretty fun and I like the idea. I just think, especially Swoop's arm is just really thin, especially in this area. I wish they could have done something. And that's why I kind of wanted to bring this around and give him like an elbow. But then, you know, this looks even worse. Like, I wish there was a way you could rotate the... Again, it's a core class combiner. I'm probably asking too much, but... Ooh, he almost felt like he wanted to balance there. Do you want to balance on one leg? You want a flamingo style? There we go. We'll see how long that holds for. But in any case, I like the idea. I don't think the execution of this was flawless by any means, but I'll reserve judgment 100% until Snarl shows up. But here's what we have so far. I think Skarr's pretty great. I really do like his design. I think it's fun to have an Ankylosaurus on the team where we didn't really have one previously. I like the robot mode. Definitely strikes me as kind of a stocky bruiser. I think they did a really nice job with the paint applications. There's not a ton, but for the most part, I think it looks pretty good. Head sculpt's good. Like I said, the Dino mode looks pretty good. The accessory, I feel like, has a little bit to be desired. It's just a giant fist with a gun at the end. It doesn't really work as a tail, it's not bad for the Ankylosaurus. Doesn't really work that well as a gun, in my opinion. And even as a fist for the robot, I think it's weird they have, and this goes for Swoop as well. The way the fists connect onto the arm looks really weird. Like they're just kind of hanging off there. They don't, like, at least with the old G1 toys, the fist pegged into a hole and it looked like it was part of the arm. This looks like they glued it onto the side of the arm. It just looks weird to me. It's not perfect. It's not the worst thing ever. It's just a little weird in my opinion. But just going off of Skarr on his own, I think the robot mode looks pretty good. I like putting the legs down here since it clearly looks like it was meant to do that, even though the directions do not show that off, which I think is weird. He doesn't have a ton of kibble here on the back, which is nice. I wish he had elbows. Now that Swoop has elbows, I wish they all had elbows. And his heels aren't the best. They'll keep him from falling over, but, it's not as good as it could be. I feel like I have to kind of turn the thighs on the hips here kind of in to get it to work properly, kind of keeping it straightforward. It's not bad. It's just kind of finding the right pose. And also I feel like with the way the knees work, I want them to come in more, and they kind of naturally want to spring out like that, as you can kind of see, which is also kind of weird. I think it's just because of, how they have it set in there. But, so again, these are all minor things. At the end of the day, it's a core class figure, so I can't be too harsh on it. And I do think he's a lot of fun, and I think the robot mode looks good, and I think the Dino mode looks good. Dino mode's not perfect. I mentioned some things earlier, but for the most part, I think it's fun. And here's where you can kind of see where the heels will kind of keep him up, but like the front of his feet aren't touching the ground, so that's a little weird. And I feel like I'm nitpicking it too much, honestly. Overall, I think this is fun. I really like him. My overall opinion is very favorable. There's just a kind of, tiny few little things, but by no means should that stop you from enjoying this guy. I think for the price, he's a lot of fun, and it's fun to have a sixth Dinobot, kind of a new Dinobot to the team. Although, not the first time we've seen a sixth Dinobot pop up. I still think this is a really fun figure. So, maybe we can have 7 Dinobots now. She won't be able to combine, but she can still hang out. In any case, I'm getting off topic. This guy's fun. For the price, I think he's definitely worth picking up, especially if you've been collecting the others, so we can finally have a full Volcanicus. Yeah, I think he's pretty fun. Definitely check him out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks so much for watching.